Back in book 1 of Sailing Adrift, we completely refit our 1972 vintage sailboat in our driveway. And then we splashed it into the Columbia River. And guess what? It floats. So now we're gonna move aboard and live our lives on the water. A few weeks ago, we had this idea for you to tell us what you'd like to see next. So we're calling upon you for our next adventure. What would you like to see us do in future episodes? Well, we picked the most popular response, and we nailed it.
We're sailing!
And by actually sailing, we discovered our winches were too close to the standing rigging stanchions, so we decided to move them a bit.
Now go the other way.
Clearance.
Why you go so gingerly?
I don't want to bust my knuckles.
This week, we tackle some more refit projects. Yep, you were happy to remind us there's still work to be done. Also, I'm back to work and Chris is trying his best to avoid cabin fever by staying busy and not completely losing his shit.
Thought it was about time I started in on this cabinet over the electrical panel. We need to have doors on this so that if water comes in through the pilot house door here, it doesn't squadouche all the electronics and cause a whole bunch of bad stuff. So that's what I'm working on. I've got the shelf cut. The doors we made before we even left, so we've had those forever. And now I'm just working on the framing, and then once the framing's all done, we'll get to kind of like fair and sand and paint the whole unit, and then we'll put the doors on, and that'll be that. So, there we go. Keep working.
It's been a while since we got to work with this old friend.
Little bit of thickened epoxy. Little bit of thickened epoxy. Haven't said that in a while. Having withdrawals, but not really. Epoxy is some neato stuff, man. You don't have to have clamps. It'll get nice and hard and strong without those. And this way, I won't have to have screws going through the deck. We've already cut this and test fit it. It goes in nice and snug under this piece of trim. And then we just kind of bump it in. Please hold while I... There. Now I'll just tamp it down so it's nice and flat. Tap it in. Now we have a top. Obviously a little ugly and we'll need to paint it. This is going to be slightly raised so we clear the top of this battery charger with some room to spare, and we'll need a piece of trim to make that pretty. But it's coming along nicely. It'll have just the slightest bit of lip, as seen here, maybe about ½ an inch. That way, if you set something down, it'll have a little bit of a restraint, but I didn't want to have something so high that it was like annoying to kind of set things down in here. But it might be something to hold pins, or I don't know, who knows. Quick update on the electrical cabinet. All the components are built, not in place yet. Obviously there's no doors on it, but we've painted everything Kelly gray.
I'm happy with it.
Good.
I actually do think it looks pretty awesome. Two tones of gray.
Iron Maiden and Shark's Tooth.
Yep, close enough.
Including the cabinet doors. Got to assemble those, and I also did some touch-up paint around the boat. So those we primed, but when we were painting this interior, we had the doors open for ventilation and forgot about those panels. So they are actually painted on both sides now. And it is some touch-up paint where things have been scuffed over time.
A few months ago, before we moved in, we scrambled to paint everything, but didn't give ourselves enough time for the paint to fully cure. And then we proceeded to bump and scuff almost every surface during that move.
Paint like this takes about, man, a couple weeks to really like get nice and hard and durable.
That's what she said.
So in the first couple weeks, it's really easy to scuff it. So we'll try to be a little bit more careful. There should be a lot less traffic going through here now that we are settled in.
Settled? Does this look settled to anyone else? Our staircase is literally hanging out in the middle of our kitchen.
I'm going to add all the hardware add the plexiglass onto these, and then we'll start putting everything back, or everything together for the first time. It should look pretty cool at night. Those little green lights that erratically flash are neat, and I'm gonna miss having that look, but I think it'll look cool enough through the tinted plexiglass.
While we wait for our hardware to show up, Chris quickly pivots into another project.
One project I've been working on is, not working on, but conceptualizing, is we want to be able to hoist this and let it back down to the water level without fear of dropping it into the water. This thing doesn't weigh a whole lot. I would guess under 100 pounds. This strapping that we bought for our lifelines can hold a heck of a lot more weight than that. But I want to build a harness that goes around this, and it'll kind of live on top, and it'll either have a handheld or a D-ring that we can use to lift it by hand or hook on a halyard from the mizzen boom and hold this thing up to the deck or drop it down to the dinghy. So first step is to kind of wrap it around and cut it at the appropriate level and pin it in place. It's hard to see because it's black on black, but it will wrap around here and there. This first one's going to be a rough cut, and then we'll trim it up later. I'm using my Dremel hot knife butane cool little gizmo that does all sorts of things. It can work with heat shrink, it can cut through this nylon, it cuts through rope and burns it. It's actually very cool. We'll put a link in the description because I love this thing. You can pick it up from Amazon.
Chris continued to futz around and make adjustments. Then he started pinning the straps in place in preparation for sewing.
I bent it. Either I suck or this pin sucks. Yeah.
Well, he tried. Another perk of working aboard a boat is dropping things into the abyss for all of time.
Something would fall, but I expected it to float. Now we sew. Alright. You could definitely use a sewing machine if you're so inclined. But I'm going to use this Speedy Stitch. It is actually a pretty slick little product, and it should make going through all the layers of this fairly easy. I'm going to find my first tether. And we'll do the start of this first one and then take a look at the finished product. We're just going to sew this end on so it buckles in place. We're going to sew all this together. So it's going through 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of this polyester strapping, which is pretty tough stuff. There's instructions on how to do this guy, but basically you want to have enough go through the back of the needle. See how this trough lines up with the trough in the needle? That's the way you want that to be. Push that through. There we go. Got it. Pull all that wax thread through. This is still the stuff that came with the Speedy Stitch. This is way more thread than we're going to need. You kind of pull enough through, like if you've ever used a sewing machine, little like underneath thread. That's what this will end up being. Like I said, way more than is strictly necessary for the backing to this, but it's already pulled out and it's about impossible to push back in, so we're just going to roll with it. Put that on, tighten it down. First stitch is just to get thread through, all the way through. Grab the bitter inside, pull all that extra stuff through. This is the thick UV resistant stuff that comes with it. Obviously it's going to have a rustic look when we're done because we're using black strapping and white thread. But you pull that back out and then make your next stitch right next to it. Don't stab your own finger. You can either pull back a little bit, which will belly that out, or just grab it with your finger and you put this through. And you pull it back out, and pull your stitch tight, like that. I am not good at this. These never look good, but they're strong. And that's more important than anything else. And continue all the way around in either a box or a box with an X or whatever shape you want to create. The key is to end up where you started. So you want to go in a complete circuit of your project.
Sometime later, Chris had successfully completed one of the stitched boxes.
when you're finally done, look at that high quality work. Hold this out a bit, give it a snip, and just do a typical sewing knot right there, and you're all set. Burn off the ends with your Dremel tool and call it all good. Now I only have to do that 1,
2, 3, 4.
4 more times, and we'll be done.
And it's done.
It is done, but I just realized something.
What?
We forgot to install the plastic ball.
So sexy.
So I can see why they call this like a bridle or a harness, because it looks just like the thing you put on a horse's head.
That looks just like it.
It's like, come here, buddy.
Yep.
And you put it over their face.
Uh-huh.
And it goes like this. And they put the bit in their mouth.
Yep.
And then they clip it like that.
Just like that.
It's a horsey's bridle.
Yeah.
So that just kind of tucks over here.
Okay.
And then we swoop it underneath this piece so that we can get it through here. And then it's just a matter of clipping it in here.
Easy peasy.
There's 1, 2.
That's a satisfying clip.
The reason why we have these side ones is because I think that you could like go whack and then bloop. So once everything's clicked in place, I've tried to get it off or slide it over, and it won't.
Good deal. And you have this fancy leather strap for comfort.
Faux leather, expertly sewn.
Pretty much.
All right, so it has 2 ways of doing it. You got the strap that you can grab onto and lift it up. It makes it handling it easier. Then you've got obviously the other grab points on it. And you also have this D-ring that you can swing up and then tie it to a halyard or the back of your boom and lower it that way.
Cool. With a
Or
pulley
lift it up
system.
that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
That should do us for the near future. Boy, it's chilly. My hands are cold.
Now back to finishing up that electrical cabinet.
Time to install the plexiglass, Kelly.
Yeah?
Yeah.
This project's really coming together fast.
Yeah, the work of just, 6 months of effort. When did we build these doors?
I don't know, I
Time
just
ago.
meant like this week. It's all
Oh, yeah.
coming together.
I turned my Eye of Sauron onto this project, and now it's getting done.
Good.
Next up, the next project. Probably radar. Anyway, I got little pilot holes, but I don't want to go too crazy because we're kind of playing with fire here. We have 1/2-inch screws and 1/2-inch pieces of wood, so we don't have a lot of play. And one trick I've learned over time is if you take your screw and just nip that little point off, especially if you're already using a pilot hole, it makes it way less likely that you're going to punch through and make it visible on the other side. So I
Yipes.
developed this trick over the course of decades with hours and hours of research
In development.
by a team of 12.
Where are these other 10? Why aren't they here?
But you didn't help. It was me and 11 other people. All right, then
I don't even think you know 10 other people.
I do sew.
You sewed last night?
Yep. As exciting as this is, we're going to put all 3 plexiglass windows on here. I built these frames and then I cut the Lexan while I still had a drill press and stuff.
So now it's like
All
a
in.
fun kit that you get to put together.
Yeah, it's like my own IKEA furniture. Got our hinges. They match these. Nice and beefy. Cast stainless steel from China. And then we're going to put these grates at the top to encourage airflow.
Cool.
And we'll put them on. These square-headed bits, man, they like to grab.
Why are we using square-headed bits?
I think they look cooler.
That's right. You're right about that.
Kelly has adopted all my best sayings.
That's one of your best?
Right now, several of them are in the mocking stage.
Yeah, I'm like a miniature version of you. How's it feel to hang out with yourself all the time? Actually, we don't hang out that often.
No, you're always gone.
Yeah.
I have a real job and whatnot still. Here we go. One cabinet door.
Wow.
Don't mind all the dirtiness.
I won't.
I'll leave it to my miniature version of me to clean it.
How about that? Looks awesome. Even the backside looks cool. It's
Yeah.
very industrial.
So I'm hoping that we'll still be able to see the little green blinky lights because they're my favorite part of this thing.
Mine too.
Yeah, looks pretty good.
Yeah, I like it.
And I just need 2 more of these. One for here and one for here. The cabinet looks pretty great. So much better. Like way more polished and finished. But you can still open it up and see all the badassery. Gotta wipe the inside down too. But But these things work pretty good, the little grabbies.
And here's the best part.
Hopefully it's a little bit more pronounced at night, but if you look closely, you can still see the green lights flashing. And you can see me holding my phone, and the vacuum, and the dead sanding discs.
We had to do a little sanding and some touch-up paint, but here's the final result.
Check it out, Kelly. Everything is in here now, and it's covered. You know, one of the things I was concerned about with all of this is having just exposed to the door here. It's not 100% covered now, but at least if we get a rogue wave or something through the doorway, it's not going to get just completely drenched, but there will be some water ingress. Anyway, got some vents up here to allow hot air to escape and make sure you're getting good airflow.
Cool.
On this side, we've got the charger and inverter that I've made sure that you can pull out through this door if you need to and get to all the screws. That was a big part of what I was worried about.
Nice.
And on this side, you've got the entire panel set up. One thing I'm going to add is this is the outlet that is direct to shore power. Because we're an inverter-based boat, we only have this outlet throughout the entire boat that runs off shore power. And that's by design, but what I'm going to do is right over here, I'm going to add a switch, and then I'll run off of one of these spares, a breaker, so that we can switch this from shore power to inverter power and still have the functionality of this when we're offshore.
Cool.
The big factor that makes me want to have that switchable is Starlink, because when you're on shore power, you obviously want to use shore power to power Starlink, but our goal is to ultimately not be on shore power very often. So why have two different outlets function? Why not just use the same one all the time? And so I ordered a little 90-degree angle so that the Starlink can live in here pretty much permanently, and we can switch it off between inverter and shore power whenever we want it. But this is the cabinets. They're all done. But I've done a couple of other things too. Added a footrest rail to this, and I got to go pick up a couple more bolts, but that's going to look like that.
Wow.
So that when you're going along, you can just rest your feet on there and be comfortable, because we'll probably end up pulling out the cooler, the freezer, and sitting on that. What else have I done? Oh, look what's above my head. I saved you the boredom of watching me install it. I got this mount off eBay. Just a generic radar mount. And we've got a new Garmin radar. It really wasn't that bad. It is a wet, miserable day. At least it's not windy, I'll give you that. But like, we've got this installed on the mast.
I was at work today, but that didn't stop Chris. Here's a good example of why women statistically live longer than men.
I used this 10-foot ladder precariously to do so.
Sorry there's no footage of this, but this is pretty much exactly what happened, and what is currently happening right now. Anyway, in case you're curious about the wiring aspect of this project,
it goes in through this grommet right here, goes in through the grommet right here, and then out through the bottom of the mast, and then we're gonna add like a ceiling deck penetration for the two cables to go through. Then we'll have it inside the boat. We'll route it through the pilot house ceiling and down to the electrical panel and to the Garmin 18 HD Plus. That'll just go right into the network. It's pretty cool in that it will display just a broadcast over the network of the radar, and then we can overlay it on our charts. So it's gonna be pretty sweet.
now let's just hook it up.
Just like that, in one day, I managed to, in the rain, install the radar mount, install the radar dish, route the cables all the way through the boat. It's all wired up. It's ready to test. We were strongly debating whether or not we wanted to shell out the what amounts to about $1,600 to install even the least expensive radar setup that we could, because we have AIS, and once we get out of the fog of the Northwest, it's not as vital. But people talk about like fishing boats and things like that, and cargo containers, of course, and all that stuff. So we've got the radar now. We're safe. We have all the electronics I can think we could possibly need on the boat. We're ready to go.
Time for the big test.
Kelly, come check this out. Look.
Ah, the radar.
I don't know how this is supposed to help us. There's obviously quite a bit around. Let's get closer. Let's get more intimate with it, shall we?
This is how we play Battleship.
Let's just hope on the open ocean it's not so cluttered.
I have a feeling like it won't be.
I don't know if it might be this big pylon that's this blurb right there, you know, because it's like shaped out. Well, we'll have to learn how to use it because this doesn't tell me much.
Very cool.
Oh, so we got the radar working, and I also want to show you this. The way I achieved what I'm about to show you is a little convoluted because OpenCPN, like I've said in the past, has its quirks.
What we had to do is get a USB splitter that took the USB to 3 different ports and added an Ethernet port. The radar has to go directly into the bottom of the Ethernet port, which it's doing right here. And then I bought a separate antenna USB Wi-Fi card. That connects to the PiPilot so that we can get PiPilot working, as you can see here. Perfect. And then we just use the one that's on board to connect to the computer. So right now we have 3 Ethernet connections, 2 Wi-Fi and 1 hardwired.
I like how you can see it all on one screen. That's neat.
There it is. There's the PiPilot.
Cool. This is kind of a big deal. This has been going on for a while now.
Dude, just like everything that's a pain in the ass, it takes you forever to figure out the problem and a potential solution. And then once you've figured out the problem, the solution kind of unfolds itself, at least for me. And now we've got this all, it's convoluted. I hope it'll get tighter and less ridiculous as time goes on.
Chris then proceeded to geek out all day and well into the night, tinkering with the display and all the features.
I have the overlay working.
Wow.
See that?
It looks like somebody's brain.
You can make it transparent, so you can go like, there's 50% transparency, so you can see through it. So you've got the radar of all this crap close to us, and obviously if we're in the open water, there won't be all this crap. If it's annoying, you can transparent it up, and it shows you if you're going to run into anything.
Sweet. Right on.
Yep,
now we
nifty.
get to take it out and test it.
Yes, indeed. Not now, though. It's getting a little dark out. But we do have radar, so we could just go do that.
Yeah, now's the best time.
We could go out on our boat like the bats do.
Hey you, thanks for watching. If you like what you see and you want to keep following along, become a subscriber. Just hit that subscribe button below. And special thanks to our Patreon crew. We really appreciate your support.
It works much like a lightsaber. It cauterizes as it cuts.
Wham bam, thank you, Sam.
Yep. Okay. This is stupid. Hold on. Hey, look what I installed, everybody. No, that's stupid too. Even with the gray, I think it looks top notch.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Is that all you got?
Yeah.
Okay.